All right, we're going to continue with our media availabilities here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. We've now been joined by Justin Allgaier. And Justin, just to kind of kick off the questions here today, but this is a busy week for drivers being home in Charlotte, but also a busy week for fans, a lot going on. You guys had a pretty big fan day yesterday at JRM. Talk a little bit about that day every year and what you guys kind of get to do when fans come out and meet you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, you know, when fans ask all the time about what racetrack they should look at, the question is how much time do you have, right? Because I feel like between the All-Star race at North Wilkesboro being close to home and then obviously coming out here, a lot of the teams partake in fan days or have shops that are open and you're able to go and check it out. And, you know, that's one thing that I love about junior motorsports as a whole is, you know, throughout the course of the year, if you want to come to the gift shop and they have access to the shop and you can look out and see what's going on. A few paint schemes have actually been broken that way, unfortunately or fortunately, however you want to look at it. But, you know, I think that this week is such a big deal and it's so important, you know, for Memorial Day weekend and obviously Sunday with all the racing that goes on throughout the course of the day. And then just being home, you know, everybody wants to compete and succeed at their home event. You know, it's such an important race on the schedule for all of us that, you know, I think you're right, it is busy. I think some of us make it even more busy. I have tons of family that come in to town for this week. They all stay at the house. And so, you know, I end up with lots of little feet and lots of big feet all hanging out. So, you know, there's just a lot going on throughout the course of the weekend. But, you know, winning here last year after so many attempts to try to win here at Charlotte was like this huge weight off the shoulders. It was just really, really cool. And then I hated it last year, though, because we sat around and waited until Monday night, right? And that's none of our fault. I mean, that's just the weather and the way that it played out. But I'd love to get back to victory lane when it's on a normal Saturday and everything works out and it's a normal weekend.
All right, we'll go ahead and open for questions for Justin. If you have one, raise your hand. We'll go to Steve Post and then up front to Jordan.
Hey, Justin, Steve Post. Just describe a little bit the relief of getting a win at Darlington, the first part of that, and then actually having 2 weeks to savor the win. That's not something we get a lot in the sport, but having a couple weeks to enjoy it as with your family, with your crew, and everything, and then and getting the first one of the season knocked out.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about it at Darlington a little bit in post race, but I think the 2 weeks has actually been even bigger to kind of relish in that of how rough the season has gone, you know, and not from a standpoint of, you know, that there's been no animosity or turmoil inside the race team. Everybody's just diligently working to make the whole program better. And we're seeing the results of that in small forms. You know, obviously Sam got the win at Texas, and that was a big boost. And then for us to win at Darlington, that was a big boost. But there's a lot of new at our shop, right? There's a lot of people. There's a lot of things. I mean, we have, you know, Sammy came into the fold this year. We've got 2 new crew chiefs in our shop. You know, there's just a lot of changeover. And I think that anytime you go through that, it's going to have its growing pains. And I feel like we're finally starting to come into that, right? And yeah, we've had success as the 7 team. But one of the things that I love is that we're pushing as a company, right, across the board. I know the Hendrick Engine Department's been doing the same thing. They've been working really, really hard. Everybody at Chevrolet, like, you have to collectively all be moving in a consistent pattern, because the talent level and the competition level every year that I've been a part of this sport has just gotten up and up and up. And it's pretty amazing what we're racing against and the consistency that we're racing against. I think that's the other part of it. You know, it used to be you'd have kind of these flash in the pan. One team or one driver would have certain racetracks, or they'd have certain weeks that they'd be really good. Now you're racing against these powerhouses every week, right? They're just, and it's not just big cup teams that are doing it. It's teams all the way through the field, and I think that's been probably the most impressive, but also too the most daunting task is how do you stay relevant? How do you keep moving yourself forward? And you know, I feel like we're doing a really good job of that. And I think I said it in posters media, but I think sometimes you have those bad weeks really make the good weeks like Darlington that much more special. Like, I felt like I had never won before at Darlington when I crossed the finish line because of all the turmoil and the bad things we had going on. You just like, man, it's finally like you get this relief that I don't think you get if you're just constantly up front or constantly winning.
All right, we're going to go to Jordan and then to Bob.
Following that up, by the way, too, you ask about the 2 weeks off. I not to cut you off, Jordan, but you asked about the 2 weeks off. It was really weird to win a race and then spend 2 weeks and not going back to the racetrack. But it's kind of nice. Like normally you spend those 2 weeks because you're absolutely thrashing to get to the next one because you were behind, and when you're ahead, you still put a lot of work in. But it's kind of nice to get 2 weeks to relish in a win.
Jordan Bianchi, The Athletic. You're on standby for Kyle Larson this weekend, correct?
Correct.
First off, have you done any preparation with the team or anything like that, sim work or anything of that?
Yeah, so we've done some preparation. Obviously, their goal is that they won't need me, right? Yeah. North Wilkesboro is a great example of that. I mean, I think Bob actually broke it to him that I couldn't drive the car after a certain point. But, it's been really, really cool to see kind of the preparation that they have and where they're at with everything, and really just how cool it is that what Kyle is trying to accomplish this weekend, right? And I know we've seen in the past. I've been a huge fan of guys trying to do the double in the past, whether it be Tony or John Andretti or Robbie. But I think the last number of years we've really not seen anybody even attempt it. So it's been really, really cool to I guess Kurt did it, didn't he? I forgot about Kurt doing it. But it's cool to see their preparation. I've sat through the meetings and tried to understand their thought process on how they're going to accomplish everything, right? And if I know one thing with Hendrick Motorsports is that every I is dotted and every T is crossed usually, and this week has been no different than that. So, the weather is not playing as nice as we'd like for it to in the forecast for the double right now, but I think they've got plans in place for both sides of it, and I just get to be the lucky one that gets to be a part of what could potentially go as kind of a cool spot in history.
Are you going to get any laps in the car this weekend at all or anything?
No, the practice, the way that it's going to work out with a kind of abbreviated practice, there's no option to get in the car and really do that. We've spent a lot of time trying to get, if we have to make a driver swap, ready to go. But with the ability to do the wheel force testing and do some of the work for Chevrolet, and then what I've done in the past with Hendrick as far as just knowing where their setups are at and what their cars drive like, it should be kind of a plug-and-play situation. I mean, for years, Hendrick has built the wheel force car. Now it's now being built at GM, but a lot of their thoughts and ideals still kind of are what that car is based on. So everything that I would sit in or that I would drive would be very, very relevant to what I would have to get in if I was to get into Kyle's car.
And do you find yourself looking constantly at the weather updates, whether it's in Indianapolis or here, and kind of because the scenario is continually evolving? So I'm curious if you're staying on top of all of this.
I am only because I wanted to work out for Kyle. Like, I think that's the biggest thing for me. Is I know that sounds really odd. It'd be a great opportunity to drive the 5 car if that comes to fruition. But at the same time, like, I want, as a fan of this whole scenario, I want to see that kind of play out and for him to be able to do both and make it in plenty of time for both. So, I think that I've watched it only because I'm secretly hoping that the weather will change and it's going to be beautiful in both places and he gets to make it all and happen. But if not, like I said, there's plans in place for every scenario, and that's what's been crazy to me. As it evolves, you're constantly getting updates or getting word from HMS on what's going to happen, and it's really cool to be just even in the little bit of a mix of it. Kyle, yesterday when we were doing our team meeting, he's got a bunch of people there, in the bus with him while he's going through, and he's doing IndyCar stuff while he's trying to do the NASCAR meeting. It was pretty wild to see what his schedule's been like, but need to be a small part of it.
All right, we're going to go to Bob and then Lee. Right here in the middle, please.
Bob Hockers, Fox Sports. So will you just fit in Larson's seat, and will you take part in debriefs tomorrow?
Yeah, so I'll be here for tomorrow for practice and qualifying and sit in on what they're doing. I actually fit really well, oddly enough, into Kyle's seat. Seat belts were only the little bit of an issue. I'm a little fluffier than he is. And so, getting those together was not always the easiest thing. But, the other part of that is, as Hendrick Motorsports, I mean, safety's always been a huge part of their initiative. I mean, with the seat side of things and what they do on the racetrack. So I think I was there till 8 or 9 o'clock the other night, just trying to go through all the different scenarios of seat belts and what we could do, and just making sure that both sides are comfortable. So we'll go through some things tomorrow with Kyle when he gets here. And gets in the car, and then obviously I'll get to listen in and see what they're going through, and then be here throughout the weekend whenever they need me.
And then, is there any part of you that would love, maybe not this weekend, but at some point to do a substitute role in Hendrick, just to kind of erase any bad taste from 2020 in Indy?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to. Cliff and I actually were discussing that the other night about 2020 and just, that whole scenario. But, listen, I think that it's been really difficult. Like, when you're in a substitute role, typically it's not for situations like this, right? It's usually somebody's hurt. I mean, I think back last year to Chase being hurt and being out. Those aren't ideal roles. And I think that that's it. In one aspect, it's a great moment because you're getting to drive a car that I think all of us could dream about driving, right? I mean, any car on the Cup side right now, I think, if especially the bigger teams, I mean, there's a lot of really, really great teams. But, Hendrick's always been one that I've obviously been around for a number of years and been able to help them a lot. But, yeah, I would love to run a car again. But I think the scenario, I don't really want this scenario to play out. Again, like I said, I want Kyle to do this and not be late because I want to see this come the way that it's supposed to happen. There's a lot of people that'd be wishing that it would rain and that the plane would get delayed and he'd be, it's not, I've been around this sport long enough to know kind of the ebbs and flows of it, and I'm equally as much of a fan. So if that moment comes, I'd love to take the opportunity and drive an incredible race car, but at the same time, I'm content with it working out the way that it's supposed to.
All right, Lee, go ahead.
Lee Spencer, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio and CatchFence.com. You were one of the guys that raced against Larson early in his career, and I'm kind of curious. We all knew he was good. I mean, everybody talked about this kid that was coming from California and, how proficient he was on dirt, but what you've seen from him, since like Chili Bowl days and USAC days to where he is now, just the leaps he's taken, what impresses you the most?
So I'll never forget, we actually pitted next to him, and I don't remember I think it was Blackwell or Black was the team owner's name that he drove the first Chili Bowl for, and he was this little bitty kid that come in there, and I mean, I'm not that much older than he was, so I wasn't like super old in that moment, but I just remember him being, super, super small. And there wasn't many people that were my size at the Chili Bowl back then, racing. So it was fun to see him kind of walk in. And then, we were teammates at Turner Scott Motorsports there for a couple of years. And obviously we were teammates at Phoenix Racing before it became H. Scott Motorsports. So I feel like I've kind of watched him grow up a little bit, even though I'm not that much older. Like I've kind of watched him grow up through the sport and raced against him a lot. He actually drove my dad's modified last year at Eldora and won the race in our family-owned car. And one of the things that I love about Kyle is he doesn't know a lot about race cars. Like he doesn't, like he's not going to go out there and help you set up a car or do any of that. But he's way more proficient at understanding what he needs than majority. And he's able to get the most out of whatever the car is in that scenario, right? I look at Indy and I think about there aren't many people in either garage that could, any of the garages that could go to Indy and go, 234 and just like nonchalantly, like, yeah, I'll take that lap. That's what he said. I think he said, I'll take that, right? After he made his qualifying run, a 233 something average. That's pretty impressive. So, I think just the fact that he doesn't claim to be anything that he's not. He doesn't try to be anything that he's not. He just goes out and lays it all on the line and gets the most out of it. And there aren't many people that can do that.
And real quick, Cup and trucks will be going to Gateway in a couple of weeks.
I'm sad.
That was my question. Does it chap you at all, since you're a local guy and that's your local track, that you don't get to race there on a regular basis?
Bob asked me about redemption from the Cup side in 2020. I want redemption from the Xfinity race at Gateway. I don't know, whatever year that was, 2010, the last one. I think we led a ton of laps, and then we had a really bad pit stop on the last pit stop, and we had a miscommunication. The front guy thought we were taking 2, and the rear guy thought we were taking 4, and so the front guy jumps over the wall, and the rear guy took the left rear off. So anyways, I want redemption for that, but I love the fact that we go to Portland. It's been a great area for us to go out to the Northwest. Those fans out there crave NASCAR, and they want to see cars out there. And it's funny, too, that you come to Charlotte, right, and this is home for all the teams. The fans know to come here. Like, this is kind of an easy attraction for fans. You got to the Pacific Northwest, we've not really had NASCAR out that way, other than maybe the what was the K&N Series at ARCA West now. but very little NASCAR related on track activities out there. I think trucks maybe went out there 20 years ago. And when you show up at the racetrack, they're ready to go. They're pumped up. They're excited, and it's a great weekend. I think we could equally have that one if we go to Gateway, right? Love the facility. It's a great part of racing country. But at the same time, I know why we're split like we are. I just wish we could maybe split another race and we could still go to Gateway because it is home. But either way, I've had so much fun. I feel like on the NASCAR schedule as a whole over the last number of years, like we've gone to some amazing racetracks, and we've had some awesome crowds that have come out and been a part of it. I'm looking forward to going back to Iowa this year. There's a lot of just little details about our schedule that I feel like, as we transition through kind of, there was some holds on some schedule stuff for a number of years. I feel like we're starting to really go to some great places, and we're seeing the fruits of that. And as we hone in on the next gen car, and I feel like every race we go to with the Xfinity Series car, they're really, really good. The Truck Series has been great. As a whole, I feel like our sport is doing really, really good right now, and we're kind of taking the path of where we need to go at, and I'm excited to see what that looks like.
All right, Greg, did you have a question? Or Al, did anyone? Okay. No. Oh, good. I just thought I might have seen. It was Reed. Reed, you were the one I was looking for. Thank you.
Hi.
Okay, thank you.
Reed Spencer with the NASCAR Wire. You were talking earlier about how competitive the Xfinity field is. Well, this week you've got Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott, Ty Gibbs, Noah added to the field.
Yeah.
Is it still fun to race against those guys? Would you like that kind of Cup presence? And is it significantly more satisfying when you beat a field with them in it?
I've said for years, and I think it's funny is, I don't know that I necessarily like the limits of how many races the Cup guys could run, because I do feel like it's a great marker of kind of where you're at, ability-wise and team-wise and all those things. Like, those guys come in and they get the most out of kind of what the weekend will hold. On the other side of it, though, as I mentioned, ultra talented right now. You got a lot of young drivers that are coming into the fold that may have never have gotten those opportunities if we didn't have those limits. So I understand both sides of it. I still think that it's so funny how, we'll go weeks and not have any Cup drivers come and be a part of the race. And then you come to a place like here and you've got, 5 or 6 that are full-time Cup Series guys running an Xfinity race. And I just think that's always kind of funny. They all tend to race the same ones. And a lot of that comes down to having fun, right? Charlotte Motor Speedway is an absolute blast. It's hot. It's slick. You're sliding around. You're constantly chasing the racetrack. That's what was fun about last year, to be honest with you. And I know it was terrible to have to sit through the 72 hours of Charlotte that we raced. But at the same time, we ran on all the different track styles, conditions. We had sun, we had rain, we had hot, we had cold, we had all these different things. But this racetrack is so sensitive, and it's so well attended, and it's so much fun. The energy that this race kind of has is really second to none. So, I think that having those guys here and getting to race against them, they're going to make it fun. They're going to be up there. Listen, there's no doubt in my mind that all of those guys will be up front at some point throughout the course of the race tomorrow. And if you beat them, it makes it that much sweeter, right? Like, it makes it that much more enjoyable. And if you don't, listen, those guys are regulars on the Cup side at a high level because they're really, really talented and they're really good at what they do, and they're driving really good cars over here. So, I think that for me is probably a little bit different, but I think especially to some of our younger drivers in the field that maybe don't have as much experience racing against those guys, it's a great way to learn from guys that are ultra successful and they're really good at what they do, right? If you're going to ever take lessons from somebody, you don't want to just get a random person off the street and try to get lessons. You want to go get the expert in that field, and those guys are that on the Cup side. So it's good to be able to learn from them.
All right, Chris, you had a question?
ChrisKnight.com. Justin, inching towards the halfway point of the Xfinity season. This time last year, you were third in points, and then this weekend you're fourth in points. So how would you evaluate the season so far, and what do you guys have to work on for the second half?
Am I tied for third or am I tied for fourth? I don't know. I think I'm tied, right? But I don't know. Am I tied for third or am I tied for fourth? Do you know, Kimball? Am I tied for third in points or am I tied for fourth? Oh, man. I don't know. It says fourth? I mean, I'll go with fourth. Honestly, I looked at last year, and we were terrible to start the season. Like, we showed up at the racetrack, and we didn't have speed. We weren't good. We just didn't have what we needed to have. And what's weird about last year is we ran second at Darlington, and we came here to Charlotte, and we won the race. I don't know what it is about these summer months. You know, you get to May, June, July, and especially our 7 team, but really as a whole at Junior Motorsports, when the tracks get hot and slick, I feel like that's where we are really, really good. We do a really good job. We bring race cars to the racetrack that are drivable, right? And we're able to go out there and we're able to do what we need to do. So I'm not in panic mode by any stretch, like that we're not any higher than we are in points. On the other side of it, though, you know, I look at this year and I look at all the races that went the way that we wanted them to go until the very end, right? Phoenix, I think about all the points we lost in the last 5 laps at Phoenix. Atlanta, I think about all the points we lost in the last 5 laps at Atlanta. Richmond, we played the Uno card of last year of what happened, and it bit us last year, and guess what? It bit us this year for the opposite. Like last year, we pitted early, and the caution came out. This year, we stayed out, and the caution came out, and the caution never came back out. You know, little things like that where we know we've given up points. Somebody wrote an article, and excuse me because I don't know who exactly wrote the article, but it was like 100 points that we had given up this year just based on where we were running, you know, throughout the course of the day or the average of the day and where we finished. It was like 100 points that we had given up, and I think that was leading into Darlington. Well, if I look at 100 points, we're the point leader by like 30 points, right? So it's hard to say that I'm sad, but I also want to clean that up, and we got to execute, and we did that last week, and it worked out. We won both stages and won the race, right? If the 7 team is on, Jim Pullman and everybody that's on the 7 team, if the 7 team is on and we do all the right things, I feel like we're the car to beat week in and week out, right? I feel like we have that opportunity. Are people going to be faster than us? Yes, but we do a really good job when everything works perfectly. Now, if it doesn't work, we might run 35th. But at the end of the day, that's a risk that I'm willing to take. I feel like these guys go to battle with me every week. They're fully invested. They want to see the 7 car in victory lane every week. And as a race car driver, the only thing I could ever ask for is to have the people that are behind you 100% in your corner and pushing in the same direction you are. And we're doing that right now.
You are tied for 4th.
Tied for 4th.
Yes,
Okay.
just so you know.
So I'm actually 5th, Chris. If you're really curious, I'm 5th because I think Jesse gets the tiebreaker. Jesse would get the tiebreaker at the moment. So I was kind of secretly hoping I was tied for 3rd. But either way, that 100 points would still get me to the lead, just so you know. And if we run really good this weekend and we win the race this weekend, that'll move me into the next spot. Because, I'm tied. So I gotta beat Jesse this weekend. I need to beat him in the stages in the race. Then I'll be outright 4th. But I'm not super worried about it. My only goal right now is to get back to Phoenix, right? How do we manage the year, do the best job we can, and get ourselves back to Phoenix? Because I feel like we left one on the table last year at Phoenix, and then we go back this spring and we have the tire going down. Like I feel like we're all ready to get there. So we're looking forward to it.
All right, Justin, as always, thank you for spending so much time with us. And best of luck this week, and hopefully we'll see you here again on Saturday.
Sounds great. Thank you guys all. Happy Memorial Day weekend. And hopefully you guys get a lot of fun with all the racing we got this weekend.
All right, and to all the...
All right, there's the checkered flag. Great job, driver.